Well, you've probably all heard of disgraced Green MP Darleen Tana. Tana left the Green Party in July when the party received the findings of an independent investigation into her knowledge of migrant worker exploitation allegations at her husband's bike shop. But it's not her treatment by the Green Party that should be causing significant emotional harm. It's actually the misgendering. The problem is trying to figure out who's doing the misgendering. But hey, Bob is here. Bob is woke, and I can help you. Let's check it out. So this was Darleen Tana being sacked by the Greens in July, around the 23rd of July. Remember that date?
This is why, following the conclusion of the expert independent investigation into the allegations surrounding Darleen Tana, Marama and I recommended to caucus that we request her resignation as a Member of Parliament. Our Green caucus...
Yeah, we request her resignation, but she is not a she. No way. She is a Liverpool supporter. You'll never walk alone. She is a they, them.
Struggling to find their new seat? It's way up the back there in political Siberia, the loneliest place in Parliament. But not for Darleen Tana.
Not at all. My pronouns are they, them. I never walk alone, in fact.
Back in the House, 100...
My pronouns are they, them. I never walk alone. Now, according to the Stuff report, remember the 23rd of July, confusion reigned as to whether or not Tana was, and I quote the article, taking the PISS, or whether they do in fact identify as they, them, and how not conforming to binary gender forms means that you do not walk alone. And apparently asked by Stuff to clarify the pronouns, Tana simply responded in a text message, "Because I never walk alone. Thank you." Well, Stuff's reporter, Jenna Lynch, gets real confused. I mean, look, it's confusing being woke. Because in this report, she says, at their husband's bike business. But then in a live interview with the host, Jenna Lynch says to get her out of here. I know. Shocking. Have a watch.
Allegations Tana was involved in migrant exploitation at their husband's bike business. It was back to evasive form. And there is some appetite for them to use it against Darleen Tana to get her out of here.
Whew. But on the same day, Chloe Schwarbrick misgendered her not once, but twice.
I requested that she finally, as a matter of basic decency and respect, respond to our request unanimously from our caucus for her to resign.
Now, this is after Tana has clearly said she doesn't walk alone. Misgender woked. It's actually my new word, misgender woked. It's misgendering someone by trying to be woke, but not woke enough. Misgender woked. But then, about a week later, it was reported by One News that 3 Pacifica Green members had resigned over the treatment of Darleen Tana. But firstly, One News reporter Mikey Sherman and Chloe Schwarbrick both misgendered Tana, saying her. I mean, this is a week, yes, a whole week after being told her preferred pronouns, because she never walks alone, are they, them. But listen to Chloe. Look, credit where credit's due. She does get it right, but it's at the very end.
Today, the party took the first step in the waka jumping process, writing to Darleen Tana, putting her on notice and giving her 21 days to respond.
Given Darleen Tana's lack of engagement to date, do you really expect her to respond?
The ball's in their court.
The now
in their court. Whew. Now, as well as that, 3 News, they also weren't doing too well at it.
Evening. The Greens annual meeting has ended with senior Pacifica members resigning over perceived racism in the party. One item on the agenda was to work out how to get Darleen Tana out of Parliament following allegations of migrant exploitation at her husband's business. But 3 senior Pacifica members have walked out over what they call her appalling treatment, as well as that of other Māori wahine.
Yeah, I know. Terrible. It's shocking. Well, this week the issue was back. But what's really interesting to note is that the mainstream media had obviously got the memo and were not going to misgender woke anymore. No way. Here is Stuff's article. Darleen Tana writes to Green members arguing to keep their seat. Ex-Green Darleen Tana has written to their former party arguing that they have done nothing that would justify their expulsion from Parliament. Tana is insisting that they have public support to remain in Parliament. They started as an MP on the Green Party ticket as a list MP, but told reporters on Tuesday that many people voted Green for Darleen. Now, One News repeated an article from Radio New Zealand, because they're independent media outlets, and we need independent media outlets, even though they just reprint each other's stuff. But in this article, it says former Green MP Darleen Tana says they have no intention of resigning. Former Green MP Darleen Tana has responded to the party co-leader's formal request they resign, saying they have no intention to do so, and disputes the Greens' arguments around proportionality. Last month, Chloe Schwarbrick and Marama Davidson formally wrote to Tana, who uses they-them pronouns, to inform them that by refusing to resign from Parliament, Tana's continued presence in Parliament distorted its proportionality. Doing well. And then in the Post in Wellington, which is part of Stuff, it says, Tana likely knew there had been allegations made in relation to employment matters at Tana's partner's business, which they hadn't declared to the party. Tana has strongly refuted the findings and has said they don't think natural justice had been followed. Tana said they had made that decision. Tana said they were gobsmacked to be called not fit for purpose. Now, unfortunately, someone stuffed up at the Post, and this was their little summary of political happenings for Tuesday. As you'll see there, in a lengthy 7-page release sent out to the Greens, shared with media, Darleen Tana says she is here to stay. She's sticking to her guns, saying people want her in Parliament. I mean, you got the article with they, them, and then on the same day, same newspaper, they're misgendering her. Now, somebody obviously got told off majorly because then we had an updated version. There was plenty of buzz in the hive today as ex-Green, now independent MP Darleen Tana confirmed they won't be leaving. And in the letter shared to the Greens, Darleen Tana with the media, Darleen Tana said they are here to stay. They're sticking to their guns. Whew. Managed to avoid a major disaster there. Even News Talk ZB got in on the woke witch hunt. Darleen Tana says attempts to get them to resign were premeditated. Darleen Tana has made their choice to remain in Parliament. They have declined the Green Party's request to resign, leaving the party to deliberate over whether or not to enact the waka jumping legislation. Tana revealed to Mike Hosking that they're surprised the report into the allegations of migrant exploitation and their husband's business hadn't already been leaked. They said that it's very clear that they don't recognise the findings of the report. Well, I have always warned you that actually News Talk ZB's newsroom is very woke, but possibly Mike Hosking didn't get the memo.
The agonisingly lengthy and fantastically tedious Greens approach to Darleen Tana has reached another turning point. She has officially declined their request to quit.
Mike. But it's safe to say that a memo went around the New Zealand media saying Darleen is a they, them, don't misgender woke her. But as we're finding out, trying to be woke is exhausting. And trying to manipulate the English language to something that it is not is also exhausting. But it's interesting, they all tried this week to, virtue signal with some proper wokeness. New Zealand Herald as well. In the New Zealand Herald, it said former Green, now independent MP Darleen Tana has told their former party they will not be resigning and that they will fight attempts to use the waka jumping law to oust them from Parliament. But note below the image, it says Darleen Tana, former Green MP, saying she was gobsmacked. Back in July, the same reporter said the Green Party has released the executive summary of its report into what former Green MP, now independent Darleen Tana, knew about allegations of migrant exploitation at her husband's bike company. But then at the end of July, it was changed to their husband's bike company. And then on the 7th of August, it was back to her husband's business. So that reporter, I think, has definitely got the memo. Obviously, the person who captured the image hasn't. Concentrate. Here's an interview between Radio New Zealand host Corin Dan, who's trying to do his best and does okay while he's reading the script. But it's a little bit like Kamala Harris. It all goes AWOL when he and ex-Green MP Gareth Hughes just discuss things normally.
Legislation to kick Tana out of Parliament. Independent commentator and former Green MP Gareth Hughes joins us now. Good morning, Gareth.
Yeah, kia ora morena.
Well, what's your reading on proportionality? I think we heard from Andrew Geddes earlier in the news suggesting that proportionality had indeed been affected. Do you think she's got a case here, that Darleen Tana has a case?
Oh, I think it's highly unlikely that she has a case.
Yeah, unbelievable. A big oopsie moment. But then Corin had to speak to Chloe Schwarbrick.
I can see in crystal clear terms why it is that we believe that Darleen Tana is not fit to be a Member of Parliament. Their behaviour is a clear breach of the principles and the values and the kaupapa of the Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand, but more so than that, of the behaviour that we would expect of all Members of Parliament in this country.
She would argue she wasn't involved in any migrant exploitation, that it was simply a matter of her, married to someone who was accused of that.
They would argue that, and I think...
Yeah, Chloe did well, didn't she? But Corin, 3 times he misgender-woked, even when Chloe was correcting him. And somewhere along the line, the communication didn't quite get to Te Pāti Māori and to Labour. Te Pāti Māori said, I think we're obliging on the fact that no one else was going to support her. And Chris Hipkins said Darleen Tana should resign from Parliament. She's resigned from the Green Party. The honourable thing to do is to resign from Parliament as well. She is now distorting the proportionality of Parliament. I mean, Chris, that is not once, but twice. If his days as Labour leader aren't numbered already, they will be now. You can't lead the Labour Party making massive errors like that. Now, why does this all matter? And why am I highlighting this to you? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, the Law Commission are currently asking for submissions that they want submissions on the issue of a review of the protections in the Human Rights Act for people who are transgender, people who are non-binary, etc. And they have a whole section on misgendering and also dead naming, that is using the name that the person originally had in accordance with their biological sex. In fact, misgendering is mentioned almost 50 times in this Law Commission paper. And they say a recurrent issue faced by people who are transgender or non-binary is being referred to by a name or a gender that doesn't reflect their gender identity. They say we are interested to understand the extent to which the Human Rights Act regulates or ought to regulate misgendering. Misgendering involves referring to a person who is transgender or non-binary by the wrong gender. For example, using pronouns for them that correspond with their sex assigned at birth. Yeah, I know, shocking. And they say, we think a New Zealand court or tribunal could hold that persistent misgendering was in breach of Part 1A of the Act. Wow, I hope the media are listening to this. And they also say, we are, however, aware of a handful of tribunal-level decisions from Canada and the United Kingdom, holding that misgendering and dead naming is discrimination or harassment in employment. And they say the Human Rights Act could stipulate that misgendering are forms of discrimination that are unlawful. But see, here's the disturbing bit. The nature of the online submission to the Law Commission is problematic, with questions that to many people seem biased towards one view of the issue at hand. But there's this disclaimer in the document that says, threatening, abusive or unlawful communications. The issues in this review sometimes generate strong opinions and disagreement. It is our role to consider all sides of an issue. Good. But then they say, we also need to keep our people safe. If a submission contains material that is threatening, abusive, or unlawful, we will stop reading it and will disregard its contents. End quote. Now, this raises questions around how the Law Commission defines what is threatening or abusive content. The immediate dismissal of alleged threatening content may generalise opposing views on the issue, giving no visibility to these voices, and in some ways act as a form of censorship. There's another case. A trans corrections officer is taking a case against his employer to the Human Rights Review Tribunal after his experience of discrimination, harassment, and bullying at work, including being misgendered by his corrections colleagues. And, of course, this disturbing case. A New Zealand high school teacher had his teaching registration cancelled after he referred to use the preferred pronouns and name for one of his transgender students. It led to the Teaching Council saying all students are entitled to feel that schools are a safe space where they are respected and valued, and teachers must not use their authority to undermine the personal identity of their learners or to inappropriately influence them. In other words, teachers, you must tell biological lies. Look, if even wokesters like the media and left-wing politicians can't get it consistently right, how will normal New Zealanders like you and me get it right? Especially when we have no intention to tell a biological lie. You see, the reason the media and politicians struggle with all of this, as I've highlighted, is because it simply isn't normal or natural. It's artificial. It's verbal gymnastics of the English language. And now they're finding out just what wokeness means. Confusion. By the way, I'm waiting for a politician to use the personal pronouns listed here. Z, them, z, her, am, her, fey, fair, who. No, that's not a bug in the system. But this is what they're encouraging young people to use, educating them on. I mean, that will really throw the wokesters, won't it, when they have to announce all these and try and remember them during the interview. But hey, if the media or the politicians need some help, just come to me. I'm as woke as.